Yeah, look, a lot of that jargon is tough. You could lose a few teeth. It's like they're all consonants, and we're just actors, man. And just have to do it and do it and do it until it rolls as smoothly out of your mouth as possible. And look, I'm not ashamed to say that there have been times when I've had to write that stuff down, and like paste it. Just write this guy. You just got to do it. I once had to speak Mandarin in a scene. I can barely say my name. So I finally said, look, I to the whole set, I said, everybody wants to go home, right? We want to go home today? They said, yeah. I said, okay, I'm writing this down on paper and I'm taping it over here. And they said, yep, thank you. Acting is an illusion. It's about pretending. So I pretend that I can speak Mandarin and pretend that I know what I'm talking about when I'm describing pancreatitis.
Hey, folks, that's Steven Weber from Wings and The Shining and Chicago Med. Just a really great comedic actor talking about in Chicago Med, in particular, he's playing a doctor and he's got to learn all this really hard medical technical jargon, and just having some laughs with him about how you remember lines as an actor. There you go. That's a little peek behind the scenes with Steven Weber. Really great interview coming up with him. Really, really funny guy, and just a really nice guy too. And I think you're going to really enjoy it. But before we get to that, it's going to sound weird, but I don't think there's enough anger in certain parts of our society. Like, I'm a Celtics, Red Sox, Bruins, all Boston fan, and my Celtics got bounced by the Nets. I'm not a fan of Kyrie. I thought he was a jerk when he was in Boston, and just a multimillionaire with a huge chip on his shoulder. And I'm so sick of hearing of these stars always complaining that they're not loved enough for this or that and the other thing. It has nothing to do with race, leaving that aside. But the point is that he stomped on the logo of the Celtics, which is this little Irish leprechaun guy, and our guys hugged him after we got beat by them. There's no, like in the 80s and 90s with the old school Celtics, that there was the Detroit Pistons, they clothesline each other and just go at it, be physical, and the same thing with the Red Sox Yankee rivalry. Nobody's punching anybody in the face anymore. Jason Varitek and A-Rod went at it at home plate, and Varitek punched him in the face. Sometimes somebody needs to be punched in the face. That's all I'm saying. They need to deserve it. So this has just been on my mind, bother me. So it's okay to be able to have a rivalry. I want to see a real rivalry, not just, hey, we're playing really hard against each other and then let's go have a beer. No, you got to play hard against each other, and then when the guy's not looking, your opponent key his car in the parking lot. That's how you have a rivalry. Okay, I'm done rambling about that. Enjoy Steven Weber. Hey, everybody, welcome to the show. My guest this week, from television series Wings, a television version of The Shining, the producers on Broadway. He's done a lot of work in film, The Perfection, Parenthood, Ballers, and the television, Will and Grace. He is probably, for me, one of the best, if not the best, comedic actors that I've ever seen. Steven Weber, it's great to have you on the show.
Hey, well, after an introduction like that, I'm happy to be on this show.
I think we should just stop here. I think why quit while you're ahead. You know what I mean? No.
Paul. Thank you.
You're starring in a multi-episode arc on Chicago Med, and I'm really fascinated by this. And you're in the midst of it's in the midst of airing, and you play a Navy doctor who gets asked to join the hospital. But it seems the tables have turned a little bit because you are now sort of an underling to somebody who you were senior to in the Navy. Talk about sort of your role, and did that aspect of the nuance of that relationship attract you to the part at all?
I mean, that everything you said is true. I mean, that's kind of the circumstances which they find themselves working for the guy that used to work for me. But because they both served in the Navy, they're both naval surgeons who actually saw some action, some PTSD is starting to surface. The show actually started to touch on it with the character of Ethan Choi, played by Brian T., who's the guy that I used to kind of oversee in the Navy. But now it's apparent that my character is becoming affected by it too. And that was the thing that really drew me to the character once they asked me to do it, which I'm grateful for, of course, because I have a connection to that subject myself. I realized after many years that my father was a sufferer of PTSD, and I've been working with an organization called New Directions for Veterans, which is a great organization which helps people out of the military who have had some issues with drug addiction and homelessness, illness, and everything. So it's resonating with me, this role. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah. Is there was your dad, was he in World War II? Did it come from that, or Korea?
Yeah, he was in Korea.
Oh, okay.
He was in Korea,
Wow.
and we realized that these people saw, these guys, and it happens today, they see action. It absolutely impacts their lives. And then boom, next thing they know, they're back home with their families, or they're trying to find jobs, and it doesn't work like that. People,
and that generation
did. Generation of people who were affected by it.
Exactly. And that generation, and my dad's would be a little older than your dad. He served in World War II. They didn't talk about feelings. They didn't talk about that. It's like that wasn't that era, right? Like therapy or whatever. So it would just say
it at all,
Exactly. Is there a certain rhythm to, you've done so much work across all the platforms, obviously Broadway and television and film. Is there a certain rhythm to the script for a show like this? And how was getting the medical jargon down? I had Katie Sackhoff on the show. She's in Mandalorian, and she said that she had to say things that were super scientific-y and technical, but like as though she said it every day. So to practice it, she would do her lines, and she would have her husband throw tennis balls at her, so she as a way to distract her, so that she could just get the jargon out. Was there any bit of a challenge for you like that?
I think she's talking about something else, that she's afraid to discuss. That's what I think.
Exactly.
But yeah, look, a lot of that jargon is tough. You could lose a few teeth. It's like they're all consonants, and we're just actors, man. And just have to do it and do it and do it until it rolls as smoothly out of your mouth as possible. And look, I'm not ashamed to say that there have been times when I've had to write that stuff down, and like paste it. Just write this guy. You just got to do it. I once had to speak Mandarin in a scene. I can barely say my name. So I finally said, look, I to the whole set, I said, everybody wants to go home, right? We want to go home today? They said, yeah. I said, okay, I'm writing this down on paper, and I'm taping it over here. And they said, yep, thank you. Acting is an illusion. It's about pretending. So I pretend that I can speak Mandarin, and pretend that I know what I'm talking about when I'm describing pancreatitis.
You should have done a Brando and like taped it to the forehead of your actor in the scene or so. I don't know if that's myth or whatever, but did you?
But
yeah. So is there a different? It feels like there's a certain rhythm to those shows. It's almost Aaron Sorkin-ish in a way, like very fast paced. Did you find it different in any way like that?
Well, I mean, there is definitely a kind of a pattern and a style and a template, for these shows. You got to be in and out at a certain amount of time. You got to get a certain amount of information out per segment. And then you've got lots of characters, and that people tune in to see. So frequently there isn't that much time to, to explore the nuances of a scene. You have to bring whatever you can to the scene and to get right to the meat of it. And obviously that has less to do with the actor. You just kind of, you're basically a pawn in the game. And that's something that I don't mind being at all. It's fun to be directed, or being a cog in the machine. But look, clearly these shows, they're successful for a reason, and they have a specific structure to them that you just adhere to.
Yeah. Well, you talked about sort of you got to get in, you got to get out. I would imagine you did a soap for a year, As the World Turns. By the way, I did a guest starring on that. I had one episode. 6 lines. I played Irv Weiner, the dirty, corrupt accountant. So I got that to my credit.
Irv Weiner.
Yeah.
Really,
says it all. But did you find people say that like sort of soaps are great training ground because you just got to get your lines, you got to edit that day and turn it around and do it again. And did you find that sort of was good for you or served you well, like in your career as you went forward at all?
Absolutely. I mean, it was one of my early jobs, and I think I pulled down $850 a week, and that was like gold. I remember looking at the first check as I got on the train to go to work. Like, God, I'm rich. It's great. And plus, I got to work with classic actors who'd been on that show since radio. So yeah, it was really educational and fun, and not glamorous overtly, but there's a glamour to the backstage aspect of it, and to the where you literally see these actors without their makeup, and you see them working hard, and it's a real, you learn technique, and you learn to show up, and you learn to be reliable, and apart from all the fantasy aspects about I'm an actor and I'm a working actor, that's bull. For the most part, you're just pulling your weight at your level, and it was really it was great to do that.
Yeah, it's like you talk about being backstage. It's like smelling the sawdust, as they say. Like you just feel feel like you're in it.
Right?
Yeah.
If you're going to be a comic, the years on the road or playing horrible buckets of blood type clubs. I mean, it trains you, doesn't it? I mean, it gives you fun stories, but you got to do it.
I had a guy. I was working at a place called Downtown Beirut 2. And
oh, brother,
yeah. Apparently, they were franchising these places, and it was in the Bowery of New York. I had just left. I was on Wall Street. I was a lawyer banker, and I just had this thing, comedy, bite me in the ass. Anyway, long story short, one night there was like a knifing before I went on stage. And this guy threw bloody napkins at me, and I stayed anyway, and I was going to finish my 5 minutes. And I remember that to this day, like, because now if I were to get a heckle, it's like, really, you're not throwing bloody napkins at me. So I think I can handle this. You know what I mean? But it does, it does, you jump into, you said something about sort of joining Chicago Med, and I think maybe it relates to a larger thing. You said one of the challenges for being a journeyman actor is that you often have to hop aboard a train that's running and fit in as quickly as possible. So how do you do that? Like, did you give your character a lot of backstory? For those listening who aren't actors, actors will sometimes create a whole backstory for their character as a way to really embody the character. But how do you hop aboard a train that's moving that fast?
I mean, in a way, you're always supposed to give your character a backstory to help make it richer for you. But just technically, just kind of know your lines, which isn't always the case for me. But you have to just kind of fulfill your obligation. As a kind of a sub. It's like, or I'm trying to think of another analogy. If you're pulled in off the bench, once one of the players gets injured and suddenly they call your name, you just jump in, put your helmet on, and follow orders, and you just do it. And there's something exciting about it. Again, you just and I think everybody's acutely aware in a production that you're new, and that nobody's forced to work in the entertainment industry. People are grateful, and every aspect of production is kind of interesting and exciting because people really want to be there. So. They're not going to razz you or haze you. Every once in a while you'll find some schmuck, but for the most part, it's pretty grounded.
No one's standing there off to the side. Yeah, good acting. Yeah, good acting there, buddy. Yeah. Like heckling you.
Oh, listen, but I mean, look, I've spoken to other actors who, there are some actors who they work with that absolutely need to. The only way they can feel taller is if they cut your legs off. And that's less about acting. That's more about their own personal needs. And they've found a way to make themselves feel better in this industry. But like I say, it's usually not the case. Everybody's very supportive. And plus, everybody wants to go home. Everyone wants to go home. And get paid.
Exactly.
And
It is.
Exactly. It's make you feel good.
Yeah.
Make you feel comfortable.
Listen, I know we have to jump. I'm going to put you on the spot. I'd love to have you on again just to talk about your father and his background and sort of how your early days. So maybe we can arrange something down the road. But I'd love to have you back on. But I know you have to jump now.
I would love to. Thanks, Paul.
And I really mean it. You know, I think your comedic acting is particularly. I mean, you're a great dramatic actor, but comedically, everything you do, like, I feel it's honest and you do it really well and you don't overplay it. It's really great. So you have a multi-episode arc on Chicago Med. Everybody should tune into that. NBC, Wednesdays, 8 o'clock Central Time. Steven Weber, great to have you on, buddy.
Paul, pleasure talking to you, man.
All right, there you go. That's Steven Weber. Hope you enjoyed it. We got a couple great guests coming up real soon. Going to keep that a surprise right now. As always, check out the YouTube channel, youtube.com/Paul Mercurio, and we will see you next week, everybody.